Hello and welcome, I'm Peasant, and today I'm going to take a look at the thematic board. So I'm just going to do a little overview and then do a playthrough, and it's going to be like a principles of thematic board playthrough. We'll see if that actually works. So this is the west board. You notice that the land types are clustered. They do have different graphics in the app. You can actually make them the regular graphics, which is kind of nice. I like these ones, but the other ones are a little easier to see. So you notice the clustered terrain types, more like an actual island might have. The impact of this on gameplay is that it's generally a lot swingier. I mean, this is no great revelation, but I think the strategic thing is that you, especially on these lands where you've got particular vulnerability in a land type, you really want to spend any of your kind of spare energy that you might have looking after those lands. So, for example, if you've got a turn where you could do something to protect, say, this only wetland. This is a see, I don't even know. This is a wetland here. So you've got one wetland. So this is a land where you can just push things in with a bit more easily, less stress. But these coastal sands are often an absolute nightmare on the two western thematic boards. So this is west, but then northwest also has these coastal sands here. These are absolutely brutal. So any kind of spare efforts, I'd say a good opening principle for this. But then why would you want to play thematic board? Is a question that you might want to ask yourself. For me, it's like a different way. It disrupts a lot of the regular patterns of, once you get familiar with the spirit, the thematic boards can make you have to play slightly differently. It's a different way of kind of adding some difficulty and variety. So here, we've got the east. We've got this massive river. So in that case, you might be pushing people into this sands here, potentially. Just doing what you can to protect the inland. Now, protecting the inland, I think, is another thing you definitely want to be trying to do on these thematic boards. Yes, that was east. Because often, for example, here, this in a mountain, there's a good chance you're going to be able to keep that clear. And then this mountain goes from being 3 mountains that you have to worry about to possibly only 2, and then maybe you can keep this clear as well. And the game will sometimes just hammer you because it is more swingy. You might sometimes it'll be like, oh, either you're going to get a wetland explore or a jungle explore, or you'll get the sands, which kills you. That's just kind of the deal. That's kind of what you're. Get rid of branch and claw, so we're going to go pure base game on this. And I think the one that I feel is the most straightforward example of the perils of a thematic board is one of these ones with the coastal sands. This is a good one. Okay, let's go northwest, and we'll go with river because it is, I think, the best spirit for newer players. If you're trying to pick this game up and learn how it works, that's fine. Okay, so the opening explorer in the mountains. You'll notice we didn't even get explorers in these inland mountains. So that's the kind of the nature. The opening sand explorer, much scarier. But interestingly, this particular board, and each board is very different. All the balanced boards are pretty much the same most of the time. D board's a bit different, but they're almost generic. Whereas this is not the case here. Huge difference in the ordering, because in this case we only got a single explorer put on the map by our opening explorer. But if it had been a sands, we would have got 2 explorers. You get the idea. So we're going to do some standard river things. This is the way I like to open a river, and I think most people like to open a river just going bottom track, at least to here, and then you're making some decisions about that. So here's a principle: always be placing presents. Spirits that have got the option of placing double presents typically have slightly weaker tracks because they're so much easier for them to place presents. So you really have to place presents, just because they give you the double presents place, you don't get to get out of placing presents, unfortunately. Not there's anything wrong with placing presents. I mean, it's good for you. So let me think about this. So we've started in here, and you'll see immediately that we've got kind of geographical issues that you don't often have on a balance board, because the map also, you'll notice, just has more territories on it. So for me, another thing I like about the thematic is that it's a way of getting a slightly more epic feeling game without having to bust out a second spirit, because that's like a whole step up in like search space that you don't necessarily want. Right, okay. So we're going to want to be rivers bountying and washing away this turn. Washing away is a super useful push. It's super powerful. If we go rivers wash, we're going to get this push as well. So we're going to want a sacred site to probably push the town that's built from here and push the things that are built in here. We've already got a sacred site here, of course, because we're river. So our presence in wetlands does just count as sacred sites. And I think maybe I'm going to make a sacred site here, and we can push this town away. And hopefully we can maybe keep this inland clear, which I think is often a nice sub-goal of the in a thematic board situation. Now our other wetland is up here, which is not ideal for river. We're going to actually have to have a proper sacred site. That's fine. And yeah, going bottom track. And we'll go with these two to start with. So we'll get our innate, which is a town push, and then we'll get wash away, which is another. A good thing I like to do with river in general is have a kind of deathland, and that's often very obvious on a non-thematic board, because the board is so easily split between kind of, here's the central coastal land, here's the land that is adjacent to everything. But I'm probably going to start thinking about that now. What I mean by a coastal deathland is somewhere where I can aim to use this effect to do 2 damage to each invader. So I've got a massive incentive to pile all the invaders in together. Hitting this innate at the top tier for river is actually, you just need all your start cards. But when you're drafting new cards, it's good to try and get these elements to make it easier, to make it more flexible, and so that you can maybe hit this more often. This second tier, I often almost just completely forget about it. It's actually really good. But the push is good, the damage is good, it's all good, it's gravy, as they say. So we're doing some slow phase business here. So we're going to be able to push all these towns out so that in the Ravage, they're not going to be doing the 2 damage they need to place Blight. But we did get, okay, we've got a wetland explore here. So we could change our mind. So we could push this explorer out from this inner wetland to prevent the build next turn. So this is why slow powers are kind of cool, because they kind of are ahead of the game. You kind of have to pay up front for them though. So, and here I've seen possibly a minor misplay. See, River's Bounty actually is a 0 range card, so I can use it to bring my Dahan in somewhere. And because I placed this presence here, I only have 2 options. Actually, I might even allow for a messy counter in this land here. What do I mean by messy counter? Well, we'll see. River's Bounty is one of the few effects in the game that actually generates new Dahan. So if I gather a Dahan in here, then the 2 Dahan will suddenly create the 3rd one. I don't know how it's done. Well, it's the power. That was a joke. Sorry about that. But what that'll mean is that next turn when they ravage, the explorer in the town will place a blight, destroy my presence, destroy Dahan, but the remaining 2 Dahan will fight back and clear that land. Letting that happen means that this turn, I could, for example, massive flooding to push this town into here, and then I could wash away and completely empty this land. And what that'll mean is at the end of that turn, after the ravage here and the messy counter, a load of these lands are going to be completely empty. And we'll be effectively preventing explores. Preventing explores is a really good thing to do if you can do it. Some situations it's a lot easier than others. I think I'm going to go with the messy counter and go with clearing the inland, because I think aside from it actually just being a good thing to do, I think it's pretty strong on the thematic to kind of keep these areas clear. Of course, we're in stage 1 now, so we've only got 1 more stage 1 card. This is going to either be sands or jungle, and you can see the huge difference in how much it matters. A jungle, there's only a single jungle on this map. There's 3 sands. I mean, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to, or a university-trained mathematician to realise that one is going to be easier to deal with than the other. So with that in mind, I actually think I'm not going to push into the sands. Yeah, I'm going to push into this jungle. Because let's just say it is jungle. Well, it doesn't matter that much. It'll put down a blight. Whereas if I make the sands horrible for myself, I'm just, that's just, you know, that's going to make things very awkward. But then I also should be thinking about my kind of where I want to hit with my innate when I get to it. Coast is great because 2 damage to everything isn't enough to kill cities, right? So you need to use flash floods or something else to do the extra 3rd damage to cities. But on the coast you get an extra damage. So with flash floods on the coast we can actually take out a land that has 2 cities in. And everything else in there. So we could just push in here. Yeah, we'll push in here. So one thing that I often make a mistake with is that I think that this is coastal. It's not actually coastal. It just kind of feels coastal. So I'm actually going to push in here because this is adjacent to all these lands. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So probably we're going to have a blight in there. Now I play with quite I'm not worried about the blight falling. I think it's a good general principle, but for some people they keep their island much cleaner. I tend to allow the island to get a little bit messier in the hope that because I've not spent all that time keeping things tidy, I'll be a bit more powerful in the late game. That's the idea anyway. So we're going to have a city build in here. We're going to have... Well, we don't know. We might just get lucky and not even have to worry about this. It's going to be a 1 damage ravage here, not enough to do anything. A town build in here. And this, again, is kind of how I almost always play this. Getting to the 3rd action, the reclaim one, is just so good. It's so good. Now, I'll try and remember to do the thing that I didn't do last time, which is plan my presence placement for this river's bounty. Let's try and do that, shall we? So we actually don't have targeting in here right now. What I mean by that is we're not in or adjacent to it, so none of my powers can currently target in this land. And I'm going to have 3 things to play this turn. The reason I want to play all 3, even though Flash Flood is kind of expensive, is that then I'll get this tier of my massive flooding, which is 2 damage and a push. What I could even do, if I target in there, I can destroy the town that's built this time. We don't even need the messy counter. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my presence in such a way that I can target in here. I've already got targeting in all these lands because it's a sacred site. I can't target in here, but hopefully we're not going to ever need to. So, do I want to put it in the sand or jungle? I think in this case we've got a big stack of invaders here in the sand, so we'll put it in the jungle because I'm less likely to lose presence from blight placement from ravages. So, I mean, again, I'm not that worried about losing some presence in that way, but there's no need to lose it just for the sake of it. Okay, so we've still not gained any new cards, but we'll start gaining new cards soon, I promise. So you see there, we've got the 2nd tier of our innate. Probably in here is good, but the great thing is we will be able to react to the explore. Yeah, so we could even really go into the tank a little bit and think about how we'd react to a jungle or a sand explore. For example, I could think about maybe partially damaging this city as a preparation for if there is a sand explore in the fast phase, that kind of thing. The one thing that is a little bit finicky with using massive flooding with your starting hand is that this is fast phase damage and this is slow phase damage. So sometimes that means that if something is built in the invader phase, like a city, if a city's built in the invader phase, you won't be able to damage it with your flash floods. So yeah, that's a little thing. So Boon of Vigor, that's no decision to make there. I'm just giving myself some energy. This is amazing in multi-spirit because you can give vast numbers of energy, and a spirit like lightning will love you forever if you play this on them a few times. Okay, so we do have this massive flooding. The nice thing is, I actually kind of want to save this in case sands show up. Now this land, I'm probably just going to allow this to blight because we're going to just smash this at some point soon. Once we get to 4 plays, we'll be able to play 4 cards. Maybe our 4 starting cards, maybe new cards that we draft and get this effect. And we're going to hit in here, so we really don't... We've got no good reason to do extra damage here because we're going to destroy everything in here soon. Where am I going to massive flooding? Kind of preventing a city build is often a really strong idea because it means you can often win at a terror level earlier. So here we're at terror level 1, we've barely destroyed anything or generated any fear. We need to remove every invader, or destroy every invader, or remove every invader to win. But if you can keep the number of cities on the board low, that can often mean you can win at terror 3, which is when you win for no city. So I'm gonna prevent a city build here. I'm still happy to let this have a messy counter. So they'll build the town and just let it go. But yeah, my style may well be different to your style. So 1 damage ravage, doesn't do anything. We've got the wetland build, and what have we got? We got sand. Okay, that's good. I think the jungle one, the jungle explorer might have, be a bit easy. Okay, but you'll notice we didn't have an explorer in here, which is, which is what you want to see. Okay, so we've actually got no real reason to move our Dahan into one of these lands from over here, unless we want to maybe think about positioning them, or certainly not in base. Your Dahan movement is a lot simpler because you're not worried about events and things like that. You may think about counterattacks. This is the place where we want them, so we'll keep them in here. We'll breed another one. But what about the massive flooding? So we can actually massive flooding in here and just prevent the build. That's pretty decent, isn't it? I think that's the straightforward good thing to do, because we can just do 2 damage and then just push an explorer in here where we can kind of get rid of them at our leisure. So 2 damage, and yeah, no reason to push this anywhere but here. Now, some adversaries and scenarios that you can't do this. Or you've got to be careful doing that kind of stacking. But that's one of the nice things about 0 difficulty or Prussia adversary, is that you can do what I call stacking. I don't know what other people call it. They've probably got a better name for it. Okay, so this turn we've actually got 2 ravages. I kind of didn't really pay attention to that one. So I could have... It would probably have been better to destroy that. Yeah, possibly. We are reclaiming now, so we might draw a solution. Yeah, I think I'm kind of still happy with this, but I'm not going to try and justify it. I think that is a slight misplay. But on the other hand, the benefit of this is that there are no buildings in this half of the board now, which means that there's no explorers. There will be on the coast, of course, but there's no explorers in any of these lands because there are no buildings down here. And because this land is empty now, they won't build in here and then open up these lands. This land for exploring. Okay. So often, if you're playing at really high difficulty, you actually want to push here and have a turn. But I'm not playing at really high difficulty. The fourth play is what you need to use your innate at the highest level. The great thing with River is that because you've got this reclaim 1 option, you can always just drag a card from your discard pile, which is pretty nice. And I am wondering whether I go with the reclaim or go with the play. The thing is, if I go with the reclaim, I'm probably going to be going with this play next turn anyway. So I could just play fewer than my total number of cards, so that I can smash this land next turn. But I don't know, because the thing is, yeah, with the reclaim, I've still got a two card turn, which means I'll also get the first tier of the innate. But I'm gonna go with the reclaim, and maybe we won't play all of our possible cards. I'm gonna go with a minor power here. Okay, so first power choice of the game. The thing that immediately jumps out at me is Encompassing Ward. Aside from the fact that it's going to defend us in here if we play it this turn, it also has the perfect elements for our innate. It's actually one of my highest rated river cards. Not the highest, but one of them. Because it has the perfect elements for us, it means that we can be a bit more flexible with what we play in order to get our highest tier of our innate. For example, it trails off into nothing. This is just good, alright? And it actually helps us this turn. So I think I'm going to take this. Other thing, it's a principle's not an over-explain. these are all kind of, they all have their place. I value elements so highly with River, though. Certainly your first few power picks. So I'm going to go with Ward. I'm going to play it this turn to defend in here. Perfect. Elemental Boon, of course, I'd be basically playing to get the Ward elements, but without getting any benefit. So we're definitely playing Ward this turn. Now we've got a Reclaim, so we can get to our 4th play next turn anyway. So this is like, you do sometimes want to do this kind of flip-flop thing, especially Solo Lightning. It's a bit like that as well, where you deliberately don't play all of your cards. Well, the other thing we can do... we could do this. And destroy this town and prevent this Blight from being placed. Because this is fast phase, this won't happen till the Ravage. The trouble with this is I might not be able to afford to do the clearing in here that I want to do. Next turn. Because this is my most expensive card. And I haven't played either of my energy generating cards. So, because to play my starting cards, it costs me a total of, these are both 0, this is 1, and this one's 2. So I need 3 energy in the purse. So if I play these 2 this turn, then I can reclaim one of them and have all of the powers for this. However, without being able to afford Flash Floods, potentially, I can't destroy the cities, which is kind of sad, really. You want to destroy those cities. So I think I'm not going to play Flash Floods this turn. I guess, okay, the other thing I could do is maybe hope to gain another power that might have the right elements, but that's kind of a risk. I think it's good to play into your odds, but it's not good to rely on them. Okay, so I think I'm going to let this Blight. And I'm going to do the... I think River's Bounty, if in doubt with the Spirit, especially solo, River's Bounty is so good. So if we do this, we're going to get a bit of massive flooding. We can react to this Explore. We'll defend in here with the Ward, which is going to give 2 defend. This is going to Blight. The next turn, this is also going to Blight, but we'll clear it. All going well. So we're not playing all of our cards. It might look a little bit wonky. It might even be a bit wonky. But at least this way we're guaranteed top tier on an 8 next turn. So we did get the defend in there. And there's only 1 build in here, but it's fine. They could build all they like in there. Second Sand Explorer, interesting. Okay, so we're into our slow phase. Do we want a River's Bounty in the same place? These are not actually doing anything here anymore because that land is now clear. So I'm actually gonna bring them into one of these lands. It's a bit of a chess principle, you know, kind of centralizing your pieces. Dahan movement, I think, is, especially once you get the expansion as well, can be a bit, it feels like a bit of an arcane art. Okay, and we've got our push Explorer or Town. So we could push this here and prevent this build in here. Yeah, I like that because there not being a town here prevents all of these explorers. Pushing this town in here is also, I think, pretty good. But I want to prevent those explorers. So we'll push this town, this explorer into here. Alright. So Sanded Sand could be absolutely horrible on Thematic. But it looks like it's not going to be too bad. Okay, so we've still got, these are 3 of our start cards. We're going to be able to reclaim. So we can get the 4th. We could double place presence here. That's kind of interesting because we can... I hadn't actually really fully grasped that I was going to be able to double place if I wanted to. But I'm going to look at power anyway. I think it's more useful to look at powers. Yeah. So again, we could look at major, but the minor power is good. With River, you don't really need major powers that much unless you're playing particular higher difficulties. So we'll look at a minor power and see what we get. So if we'd YOLO'd, And would we have been punished here? Probably, because we didn't get a water sun card. So we probably would have been punished if we had played 3 cards last turn. Because we wouldn't have been able to... There's only 1 water card here. Oh, actually, you know what? The fact we drafted Encompassing Ward might have meant we could have done it. Yes, it would have done. Because this has perfect elements, so it would have meant the YOLO was more viable. There you go. People, I did make a video of the top minor powers for River, and I put this high. Because I don't think people understood like how powerful having perfect elements is for this spirit. This is a very good power for the spirit, even though the elements are wonky. Because any spirit that can easily make sacred sites, which gets around the one thing that's awkward about this, defend 10 is no laughing matter. And especially as River is able to create Dahan and move Dahan around. So this is actually a great card for River. I mean, I am kind of allowing a load of Blight Tap. We could take Voracious Growth anyway. So if this is blighting this turn... I mean, Quicken is just a great card. It's a great card. But my Dahan aren't actually anywhere relevant. If you notice, the buildings are all on the coast in the top corner. My Dahan are nowhere near. I think I'm still taking it anyway. We'll leave the Blight on the Arth. It's fine. So we want the 4th play in order to get this top tier of RNA. So we did take Quicken. Let's put a presence in here for a future defend. As we River, it will actually just innately be a sacred site. Okay, so now we get something back. So in this case, I actually think, although this has freed me, I'm still going to take River's Bounty. To potentially bring my Dahan over for a counterattack here. Okay, so now we do the most... It's the lovely thing about River, it's just like a game plan in a box. So all of our start cards, there's our top tier of our innate. We don't even really care that much about these. About what they do. It's very rarely the wrong thing to do. I'm telling you bad principles here. So Boon of Vigor we do on ourselves. So the Flash Floods, we're going to pip these 2 cities. So that's those 2 cities partially damaged. We've got a Sand Ravage. It's going to blight. That's okay. And then we've got the Explorer. So it's a Wetland Explorer. So, okay. That's fine. We're now into the slow phase. And we're not going to get a complete wipe because this guy's here. But we can wash away these visitors into here. And then we can just clear this land. This destruction, I don't know if is it going to be enough to end it? It's not. I don't think so anyway. My piezo approximaths tells me I'm going to have to do a bit more to finish this. But we actually are actually generating a little bit of fear now. So we are 2 fear away from getting to Terra 2. Currently we need to destroy everything on the map to end it. So currently it's just this one Explorer. Interestingly, we've already had our Sands Explorer, so the only thing that's going to put a lot of things on the map is a Coastal Explorer. I think I might just try and kill this guy with Flash Flood soon. But we will bring over... Yeah, we'll bring some Dahan from in here. Gain a bit of energy. Okay. So now we are back to growth. And it's at this point that we see kind of why at higher difficulties people will push lower track. They'll push present placements. Because now I kind of, if I want a full turn, I actually need to reclaim. Now, I've only got a single Explorer on the map. So I can now win in the fast phase. Just win in the fast phase. No dramas. I've got the reclaim one. Let's do that. So it really doesn't matter what I do. So, if you saw any misplays, there will be some things that are not perfect in these runs. The aim is really just to flap my face around about principles. rather than kind of perfect play. I was thinking about doing a series where I try to do the best possible move, but I don't know if I'm capable of it. So we'll destroy this guy in the fast phase for the win. But yeah, if you like the video, like the video. And if you have any questions about Spirit, feel free to put them in the comments down below. And yeah, blah 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 blah. Alright. Till next time. Keep it spiritual.